From Havana Nights to CEO fights, my dream job turned nightmare. I remember the night before my interview at Winslow Strategies. The air crackled with anticipation. This wasn't just another job, it was the job. Consulting at Winslow was the Everest I'd been training to climb since my first taste of the industry. Those partners, with their resumes that read like epic sagas, were my heroes. I envisioned myself conquering boardrooms and wowing clients, picturing my sharp answers and power suits. I even bought a new blazer, the very fabric practically whispering success. Landing this job meant rewriting my future. Little did I know, the path to my dream was about to twist into a bizarre, gripping thriller I never saw coming. The next morning, stepping into Winslow's sleek, high-rise office felt like entering a different dimension. The place hummed with purpose, glass walls reflected ambition, expensive furniture radiating power. This was where empires were built, where fortunes were made. A crisp receptionist, Rachel Gray, greeted me with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Mr. Calloway will see you in a moment." The name alone sent a shiver down my spine. Bob Calloway, the CEO. I devoured articles about him, listened to hushed rumors of his intensity. He was a corporate shark, a legend, and despite the fear, a part of me admired, even envied, his ruthless drive. Barely a moment passed to smooth my hair in the reflective glass before the door swung open. There he stood, Bob Calloway, mid-50s, sultan pepper hair impeccably styled, a tailored suit that screamed authority, and eyes that held a calculating gleam. This was a man who commanded respect, who made deals with a handshake, whose very presence filled the room. But it wasn't his power that threw me. It was the unsettling smirk that played across his lips as his gaze swept over me. "Rachel Gray," he drawled, the words laced with something I couldn't place. "You look familiar." My blood ran cold. Familiar? I had never met this man in my life. My professional network was extensive, but Bob Calloway operated on a plane far beyond my reach. Forcing a smile, I stammered, "I don't believe we've met, Mr. Calloway, but I've been very much looking forward to this." He gestured me towards a sleek leather chair, his eyes never leaving mine. As I sat, he mirrored my movement and stated with an undercurrent of amusement, "Tell me, Rachel, why should Winslow Strategies hire you?" I launched into my well-rehearsed pitch, outlining my experience, articulating my vision, and passionately explaining how I could contribute to the firm's relentless pursuit of growth. But as I spoke, I felt his eyes dissecting me, like he was trying to piece together a puzzle, searching for something hidden beneath the surface. After a long silence, he leaned back, tapping his fingers rhythmically on the polished desk, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "Have you ever been to the Havana Room, Rachel?" The question hit me like a physical blow. The Havana Room, an exclusive, semi-secret club in Boston, where the city's elite went to unwind, to let loose away from prying eyes. I'd only been there once, with my friends Ashley and Dave, after a particularly brutal week at my old job. It was a wild night, filled with laughter, questionable decisions, and maybe one too many cocktails. But nothing, I thought, remotely scandalous. Or so I believed. I cleared my throat, struggling to maintain my composure. I may have been there once, I admitted, striving for a casual tone. It was a fun place. His smirk widened. Fun is one way to put it. I was there that night too. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. Suddenly, fragmented memories of that evening flashed through my mind. The karaoke, the overly aggressive guy in a loosened tie trying to buy me an expensive drink, the crowded dance floor. But nothing I did, or at least nothing I remember doing, would have put me on the CEO's radar. "You made quite an impression," he purred, his eyes gleaming with amusement. Dancing on the bar, wasn't it? A wave of heat washed over me. My cheeks burned with a potent cocktail of embarrassment and mounting anger. It was just one night out, a little harmless fun. "Oh, I'm not judging," he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "If anything, I admire the confidence. I just find that interesting, how small the world can be." The rest of the interview was a blur. I managed to answer his questions, to nod and smile and pretend I wasn't completely mortified. But with every word, I felt his eyes dissecting me. That unsettling smirk, a constant reminder of my supposed indiscretion. When I finally shook his hand and escaped his office, I was convinced I'd blown my chances. Then, 2 days later, the call came. Winslow Strategies was offering me the job. My dream had materialized. Yet in the back of my mind, I felt the weight of Bob Calloway's gaze, the unsettling knowledge that my dream came with a price. The first few weeks flew by in a flurry of activity. I threw myself into the work, determined to prove myself, to bury the memory of that night at the Havana Room. I kept my head down, avoided Bob Calloway whenever possible, but he seemed to have a sixth sense for finding me, appearing just as I was leaving for the day, passing by my desk with that knowing look in his eyes. Then, one Friday afternoon, he summoned me to his office. "Rachel, you're doing excellent work," he began, leaning back in his chair, "which is why I have a special assignment for you." Forcing a smile, I tried to mask my growing discomfort. "Of course, Mr. Calloway. What do you need?" He raised an eyebrow, a dangerous glint in his eyes. I'm hosting a client at a charity gala tomorrow night, and I need someone charming and capable to help me entertain them. I think you're up to it. He paused, his gaze intense. Wear something like what you wore that night at the Havana room. Make sure you stand out. It wasn't a request. It was an order. I felt trapped, the walls closing in, but I didn't dare refuse. Winslow was a place where people play by Bob Calloway's rules, or they didn't play at all. The gala was as extravagant as I had imagined. Crystal chandeliers sparkling, elegantly dressed people sipping endless glasses of champagne. I found myself dressed in a black cocktail dress, acutely aware of Bob Calloway's gaze following me throughout the night. As the evening progressed, he pulled me aside, his grip a little too firm on my arm. You did well tonight, Rachel, he said, his hand resting just a little too heavily on my shoulder. You've got a natural talent for this. I simply nodded, trying not to let my stomach churn. You and I, we have an understanding, don't we? I forced myself to meet his gaze, fighting back a wave of nausea. Of course, Mr. Calloway. The weeks after the gala became a twisted game of cat and mouse, a series of subtle opportunities and veiled threats, small reminders that he hadn't forgotten, and that he expected me to remember our agreement. Every touch felt like a power play, a constant reminder that he held something over me, that my dream job was built on a foundation of compromised integrity. Then, one morning, while grabbing coffee in the break room, I overheard hushed voices, a woman's voice filled with anger, rising above a low, placating rumble. I cautiously peeked around the corner. I saw Bob Calloway standing face to face with a young woman I had never seen before, but vaguely heard whisper of. Rumors of a falling out, whispers that she was the one person who didn't play by Bob Calloway's rules. I'm not letting this go, Dad, Isabel was saying, her voice tight with fury. You can't just bury this. People deserve to know. Bob Calloway sighed, running a hand through his impeccably styled hair. Isabel, you don't understand how these things work. It's more complicated than you think. She snapped back. It's not complicated. Dad, it's wrong, and you know it. With that, she stormed off, leaving Bob Calloway standing alone, his face a mask of barely suppressed frustration. It was the first time I'd ever seen him look anything other than completely in control. That night, I couldn't shake the feeling that something big was about to erupt. I stayed late at the office, hoping to glean some clue about what Isabel had been so angry about. Working late, Rachel, Bob Calloway's voice startled me. Spinning around, I tried to keep my tone casual. Just finishing up, Mr. Calloway. He studied me for a long moment before speaking. Rachel, how loyal are you to this company? The question hung in the air, thick with unspoken implications. Loyal, what did that even mean anymore? To mean, I believe in what we're doing here, Mr. Calloway, I stammered, struggling to find the right words. Bob Calloway chuckled, the sound devoid of humor. Loyalty is everything here, Rachel. I need people I can trust. I swallowed hard, feeling like I was being pulled into something far deeper, far more dangerous than I had ever anticipated. You can trust me, I replied, even though a voice inside me screamed that it wasn't true. Bob Calloway nodded slowly, his eyes narrowed, assessing me. Then you'll keep what you saw today to yourself. I simply nodded, knowing I didn't really have a choice. He gave me one last, piercing look before turning and walking away, leaving me alone in the dimly lit office, with a growing sense of dread gnawing at my insides. But a few days later, I was called into his office again. This time, he looked almost vulnerable. Rachel, he began, his voice softer than I had ever heard it. I need to tell you something, and I don't think I can keep it from you any longer. I sat across from him, my heart pounding in my chest. Bob Calloway had always been an enigma, a cold, manipulative figure who always seemed to be one step ahead. But now, he looked weary, like a man at the end of his rope. Isabel, he said, his voice heavy with regret. She's difficult, to say the least. She's got her mother's fire. I waited for him to continue, my mind racing. She's been poking around in the company's financials. Isabel's always been an idealist. She thinks everything should be straightforward. But business doesn't work that way, Rachel. Sometimes compromises have to be made. Compromises? What kind of compromises? He hesitated, his fingers drumming a nervous rhythm on the desk. They've already been involved in some questionable practices. Let's just say they've been redirecting funds, creating accounts that don't exist on paper. A wave of shock washed over me. Embezzling money. It's not what we stand for, he continued, his voice barely above a whisper. Not what Winslow used to stand for. My mind flashed back to his earlier talk on loyalty. And you, he said, his eyes pleading. Of course, you weren't born yesterday, Rachel. But when you're at the top, you learn to pick your battles. Winslow's reputation was worth more than a few accounting discrepancies. Or so I thought, until Isabel found out. Suddenly, everything clicked into place. Isabel Calloway, the angry daughter, her accusations, her unwavering sense of justice. She'd uncovered something real, something that could potentially ruin the company. And now, Bob Calloway was caught in the middle, torn between protecting Winslow and protecting his daughter. What are you going to do? I asked, my voice barely audible. If I go against the board, they'll drag me down with them. But if I stay quiet, Isabel is going to expose everything, and the fallout will be catastrophic. I don't want her to go through that. I sat back, my mind reeling. I'd always thought Bob Calloway was invincible, a master manipulator who controlled everything around him. But now, he was just a man, a father, trapped in a web of his own making. He looked at me, his expression are unreadable. Rachel, you're the only person who knows both sides of this. I need your help. The room fell silent, the weight of his words pressing down on me. He was asking me to make a choice, to betray either my sense of right and wrong, or the company that had given me everything. And in that moment, I realized that my loyalty to Winslow wasn't as clear-cut as I thought. What exactly are you asking me to do, Mr. Calloway? I asked, my voice steady despite the turmoil raging inside. I want you to talk to Isabel, convince her that there's another way. If she goes public with this, it'll be a bloodbath. I can make things right, quietly, but if she blows this open, Winslow will never recover. I took a deep breath, feeling the enormity of what he was asking. Isabel had every right to be angry, to want justice, to expose the corruption that had festered within Winslow. And Bob Calloway, the man who had built his empire on secrets and manipulation, was now begging me to protect it. I didn't want to be the one to decide the fate of Winslow, but it seemed like I had no choice. All right, I said finally, I'll talk to her. But if she refuses to back down, I won't stand in her way. I won't like to protect anyone. He gave a slow nod, understanding the conditions. That's all I can ask for. I met Isabel the next day at a small cafe near the office. She was wary at first, clearly not trusting anyone associated with her father. But as we started talking, I realized how deeply she cared about the truth, about doing what was right, no matter the consequences. Rachel, I don't understand how you can work for someone like him, she said, her voice low but fierce. Do you even know what he's done? I took a deep breath, choosing my words carefully. Isabel, I know you're angry, and you have every right to be. But your father, he's not the villain you think he is. He's trying to protect you, in his own way. Isabel scoffed, her eyes flashing with anger. Protect me by covering up fraud, by turning a blind eye to everything that's wrong with this company. I said firmly, look, I'm not saying he's perfect, Isabel, but if you go public with this, it'll destroy everything. Everyone who works there, they'll all go down with it. You need to think about the bigger picture. Isabel's face softened for a moment, a flicker of doubt crossing her eyes. What do you suggest? Just let them get away with it. I said firmly, no, of course not. But there's a way to fix this without burning everything to the ground. Your father is willing to make changes, to clean up the board and get rid of the corruption. But he needs time. Isabel stared at me, her eyes searching. And you believe him? Do you believe he'll actually follow through? I nodded, my voice unwavering. Yes, I do. I think he's learned that he can't keep ignoring what's right, and he wants to make it right. But if you go public now, it'll backhouse. No one will win. We sat in silence, the weight of the decision hanging between us. Finally, Isabel sighed, leaning back in her chair. All right, she said, her voice barely audible. I'll give him a chance. But if he doesn't follow through, I won't hesitate to bring it all out in the open. A wave of relief washed over me. I had managed to buy Bob Calloway some time, but the future of Winslow and my own career still hung in the balance. Over the next few months, things began to change at Winslow. Bob Calloway kept his word, quietly reshuffling the board, easing out the corrupt executives who had been siphoning off funds. It wasn't an easy process. There was resistance, pushback, and plenty of sleepless nights, but he stayed the course, determined to rebuild Winslow from the ground up. Then, one evening as I was leaving the office, Bob called my name and asked me to stop by his office. But when I stepped inside, I saw something different in his expression, a sense of peace that I've never seen before. Rachel, he began, his voice soft, almost nostalgic. I owe you more than I can say. Without you, I don't know if I'd have had the courage to do any of this. I shook my head. You would have done it eventually, Mr. Calloway. You're only human like the rest of us. He smiled, a rare, genuine smile. It's taken me too long to realize that. He paused, his gaze intense. I'm stepping down. My jaw dropped. Stepping down. He nodded, his tone resolute. Yes, Rachel, it's time. I've been holding on to this company, onto my own image of it, for too long. It's time for new leadership, for someone who can bring Winslow into the future. I stared at him, unable to speak. Are you sure? His smile was bittersweet. Yes, and I can't think of anyone better to take my place than you. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. After months of cleaning up his mess, of navigating treacherous office politics, I never imagined he'd trust me with the company itself. Part of me felt a surge of pride, a validation of all my hard work and sacrifice. But another part of me wondered if I was truly ready for such an enormous responsibility. You're the kind of leader Winslow needs right now, Rachel. Someone who understands the value of integrity someone who's not afraid to do what's right. Taking a deep breath, I nodded. Thank you, Mr. Calloway. I won't let you down. He nodded, standing up to shake my hand, his grip firm. I know you won't. Soon after this public announcement was made, Bob Calloway moved to a small cottage in Maine, where he could live a simple life away from the pressures of the corporate world. Isabel and I kept in touch, slowly rebuilding our relationship and forgiving him for his mistakes. As for Winslow, it wasn't easy rebuilding the company's reputation, but under my leadership, we became known for our integrity, our commitment to transparency, and our dedication to doing things the right way. We lost some clients, the ones who preferred the old way of doing things, the ones who valued profit over ethics. But we gained something far more valuable, the trust of our employees, and the respect of the industry. One day, about a year after Bob Calloway left, I received a letter with no return address, a handwriting instantly recognizable. It was Bob Calloway's. Rachel, you've given me something I never thought I'd have, a reason to be proud. Thank you. I sat there, the letter trembling in my hands, feeling a surge of emotions I hadn't expected. In some strange way, Bob Calloway's legacy had become intertwined with mine, and this message felt like a final, quiet goodbye. I hadn't heard from him since he left for Maine, though I often wondered how he was adjusting to his new life. He had built Winslow Strategies from the ground up, pouring his heart and soul into the company, only to realize that he had lost his way. Now, he was gone, leaving me to pick up the pieces, to build a new Winslow on a foundation of honesty and integrity. A few months passed, we were growing again, and despite the challenges, I woke up every morning energized about the future. As I drove home from work each day, I remembered why I fought so hard to stay at Winslow, to turn things around, to prove that a company could be both successful and ethical. My position wasn't just a job anymore. It was something I believed in. Then, one crisp October morning, I received a phone call from Isabel. I hadn't spoken to her in months, though we kept in touch with the occasional message. Hearing her voice now, I sensed something was wrong. Rachel, she said, her voice strained. Hi, I have some news. What is it, Isabel? Is everything okay? There was a pause, and I could hear her trying to compose herself. It's my dad. He passed away peacefully in his sleep, the doctor said. It was sudden. I felt my chest tighten, grief catching me off guard. Despite everything, the manipulation, the games, Bob Calloway had become almost a mentor in a twisted, complicated way. Isabel, I'm so sorry, I whispered, struggling to find words that would comfort her. Thanks, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. He thought the world of you, you know, said you were the future of Winslow. I just thought you should know. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. If you need anything, Isabel, anything at all, you know I'm here. Thank you, Rachel, really. Her voice softened. And thank you for everything you did for him. You gave him away. He'd be proud of his work again. Something I don't think he ever thought he'd feel. We said our goodbyes, the phone call ending with heavy emotions. I stared out the window at the Boston skyline spread before me, as ambitious and daunting as it had been the first time I walked into Winslow's offices. It felt like a different world now, a world without Bob Calloway. A week later, I received another letter from Bob Calloway, this one delivered by a lawyer. Inside was a key, along with instructions to visit his cottage in Maine. He had left something for me, something he wanted me to have. Curiosity gnawed at me, pulling me north. The cottage was exactly as he had described it, cozy, perched on a cliff overlooking the ocean, the air thick with the scent of pine and salt. The lawyer had said to look for a box, so I started searching the rooms, my heart pounding with anticipation. Finally, in a small study by the fireplace, I found it, a simple wooden box, unassuming, almost ordinary. Taped to the top was an envelope addressed to me. Inside, a single sheet of paper. Rachel, it read, if you're reading this, I suppose I'm no longer around to tell you in person. You were the best thing that happened to Winslow in a long time. I was the one who held Winslow back, and if I could have seen beyond my own ambition sooner, I would have known that all along. Thank you for holding me accountable, even when I tried to control you. And thank you for guarding my daughter when I failed to be the father she needed. You taught me something I had forgotten, that strength doesn't come from power, but from integrity. I leave you this box, not as a burden, but as a reminder. Inside are documents, journals, my private thoughts, all the things I should have admitted long ago, but couldn't. Maybe you'll find some answers in there, or maybe it's just the ramblings of an old man trying to make peace. Either way, it's yours. Winslow is yours. Do with it what I couldn't. Make it better. Make it yours. With respect and gratitude, Bob Calloway. With trembling hands, I opened the box. Inside were old journals, filled with scrawled notes, letters, and half-finished thoughts. It was a glimpse into the mind of Bob Calloway, the ruthless CEO, the man who had manipulated and controlled everyone around him. But it was also something more. A portrait of a man wrestling with his demons, struggling to reconcile his ambition with his conscience. It was raw, personal, and shockingly vulnerable. Then, tucked between the pages of one of the journals, I found another letter. It was short, addressed to Isabel. My dearest Isabel, I know I wasn't the father you needed me to be. I know I let you down in ways I'll never fully understand. But please know that every choice I made, every decision that pushed you away, was out of fear. Fear that you'd see the truth. That you'd see me for what I really was. And you did, because you were stronger than I ever was. You always have been. I hope one day you can forgive me, not for my sake, but for yours. With all my love, Dad. I couldn't hold back the tears as I read his words. The man who had ruled over Winslow with an iron fist, a man who had seemed so cold and unfeeling, had finally revealed his humanity. When I returned to Boston, I met with Isabel and gave her the letter. She read it in silence, her expression shifting from anger to sadness, to something akin to understanding. We sat together for hours, talking about Bob Calloway, sharing stories of the man we both knew, our experiences, so different, yet strangely similar. In the months that followed, Winslow Strategies entered a new era. Gone were the days of secrets and manipulation. Transparency, fairness, and ethical conduct became our guiding principles. We still strive for success, but not at the expense of our integrity. And every so often, when faced with a difficult decision, I would think of Bob Calloway, of the man he had been and the man he had tried to become. For better or for worse, on what would have been Bob Calloway's birthday, Isabel and I visited his grave. She laid a single white rose by the headstone as we stood together reflecting on everything he left behind, the mistakes, the triumphs, the complicated legacy of Bob Calloway, CEO of Winslow Strategies. Do you think he's at peace? She asked quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. I nodded, a sense of closure settling over me. Yeah, I think he is. He did what he could in the end, and I think that's all he ever wanted. We left the cliffside graveyard walking back to our cars. Isabel and I had come to see each other as unlikely allies. As I drove back to Boston, I felt a strange sense of gratitude and a certainty that I was exactly where I was meant to be. Winslow Strategies was mine now, but it wasn't just a company, a commitment to build something worth believing in. Each day as I strive to follow what feels right, I think back to my humble beginning and where I was when I started this journey. As I drove back, the Boston skyline appeared on the horizon, shimmering against the late afternoon sky. Winslow, Bob Calloway, the Havana room, it all felt like a lifetime ago. In a way, he had given me everything I needed to shape my own path, to build a company that I could be proud of, both the challenges to overcome and the wisdom to guide it. Back in the office that Monday, the weight of responsibility felt somehow lighter, buoyed by a sense of purpose, by the knowledge that I was surrounded by a team of people who believed in the same values, who were committed to building a better future. And as months passed, more employees began taking ownership of their work with a renewed sense of purpose. They weren't just showing up, they were thriving, and each day there was a continued sense of accomplishment. Winslow was becoming a place that demanded excellence, but balanced it with the ethics and integrity I had once lost. One afternoon, Jack, my longtime colleague and friend who's seen it all at Winslow, got a second Rachel, looking uncharacteristically serious. Always Jack, what's up? I gestured for him to come in and offered him a chair. He took a seat. You know I have been here longer than just about anyone. Seen a lot of people come and go, but I have to say this place has never felt so alive. People talk about Winslow with pride again. It's because of you. I smile, a flush of gratitude warm in my face. Thank you, Jack. I don't think I could have done any of this without people like you around to keep me grounded. Jack chuckled, leaning back in his chair. Yeah, but you made the hard calls. You put yourself on the line, and you've turned Winslow into something to be proud of. Rumor has it they're thinking of pushing the company in a new direction, maybe even expanding globally. It was true. Winslow's reputation was beginning to regain traction. It was no longer just about numbers, it was about the impact we made and the ethical standards we held. Although at first our revenue took a hit for committing to only working with ethical companies, over time, we began to grow again. Our commitment to values that couldn't be bought started to speak for itself. One evening after a particularly long day, Jack shifted in his chair, a slight glimmer of mischief in his eyes. So is that why I've heard whispers that we're partnering with the Thompson Foundation? I raised an eyebrow. Whispers travel fast around here. He laughed. You know it, but that's huge. Rachel, they don't partner with just anyone. And if we can get them on board, it's a whole new level. The Thompson Foundation was renowned for its philanthropic work, a highly respected organization that had been looking for consulting partners willing to work under strict ethical guidelines. Winning a partnership with them would be a turning point for Winslow, something even the old version of Winslow couldn't have hoped for. I'm meeting with them next week, I said, excitement's part. If all goes well, we'll be able to take Winslow in an entirely new direction. Social impact consulting. It's uncharted territory, but I think it's exactly where we need to go. Jack nodded, his expression proud. You're taking it further. I looked at him, realizing he was right. This wasn't just my company, now it was the future I was building. A future where integrity and success weren't mutually exclusive. Play piece by piece, I was on my way to building the dream I always had. For the first time, I understood the weight of what that meant, and it didn't feel overwhelming, it felt empowering. The meeting with the Thompson Foundation went better than I had expected. They were looking for consultants who could help companies with transitions and embedding ethics and social responsibility into their operations. They were very impressed with my knowledge of the subject and also moved by my story of taking over Winslow and righting the wrongs of the previous administration. By the end of the conversation, the deal was done. Winslow Strategies was officially expanding into social impact consulting. When the news hit, the energy in the office was palpable. The employees cheered and high-fived and celebrated together. They were excited to learn about the new social impact sector as the excitement moved through the rooms. It wasn't just a job for them anymore, they knew they were part of something bigger, a company committed to doing the right thing. No matter what, we would only work with companies that were trying to do good in the world. A few weeks later, I got an invitation to a small ceremony the Thompson Foundation was holding to honor their new partnerships. It was a formal event held in an intimate gallery overlooking the Boston Harbor. As I entered the room, I saw Isabel standing near the entrance. Her face lit up as she spotted me. "Rachel," she greeted, pulling me into a warm hug. "I heard about the new partnership. Congratulations." "Thank you, Isabel," I said, genuinely happy to see. "I feel like this is the kind of work Winslow was always meant to do. I just didn't know it until now." She gave a soft smile. "You've turned it into something real, something my father would have never imagined possible. He would have loved to see this." "I miss him," Isabel said quietly. "He left us both with something important. And despite the bumpy road to get to where we are now, I think he always wanted to do what was best. I don't think I'd be where I am without him, as complicated as things were." In the days that followed, Winslow Strategies continued to evolve. We added social impact consulting to our services and saw our client base grow not just in numbers, but in quality. Organizations that wanted to make a difference and believed in our commitment to values that couldn't be bought. One evening after a fantastic month, I was wrapping up for the night, I came across an old photo. It was a candid shot from one of the last company events he attended, a rare moment where he looked genuinely happy without a hint of the manipulation and games. "Thank you, Bob," I murmur, the words filling the quiet of my office, "for everything." Leaving the office that night, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known in a long time. Winslow was no longer the company I had joined years ago, struggling under the weight of secrets and control. It was a place of promise, a place where people could thrive, where integrity mattered, and where success was measured by more than just the bottom line. As I continued my work, it wasn't without its challenges, but I was motivated to continue changing lives for the better. I was proud of what we built, and I am grateful to Jack, Isabel, and to Bob for helping me get here. And as I stepped out into the bustling streets of Boston, I know that my journey with Winslow Strategies was only just beginning. I was ready for whatever lay ahead because now I have both the strength and the vision to lead it there. So Reddit, tell me honestly, after everything I have been through, do you think I handled this situation the right way? Looking back, would you have done anything differently? I'm genuinely curious to hear your thoughts and perspectives.